News are dead. Science has their heads. Oh, is there no escape from here? I need to know. It eats my soul. Nothing stops me and Is this heaven or hell? I can't tell. It's human cockfighting. CTE prayer circles. They blackballed the black baller. They tried to end racism by stenciling it in the end zone. Billionaire boys using millionaires as toys. It's all immoral, all unethical. Ooh, the witching hour. Nothing stops the NFL. Is this heaven or hell? I can't tell. It's Urban and Snyder and Flores and Gruden, but Kyler, but Kelsey, but Cooper, but Canton. It's cheating and tanking and bounties and banking, but parlays, but face paint, but promo, but weddings.
Here we go. This one's for all the glory. Give it your best, it's all you got. Don't look back. Oh, it's all part of the story. You talk the talk, now walk the walk. Yeah.
When the game's on the line, will you have the guts to make the call? When it's crunch time, will you make us scream, God bless football?
From the back of every bar, on the subway, on the streets or in your car, wherever you have found yourself, scream out your battle cry. I'm all in. I'm all in. Fourth and goal, open back at your 30. Time to prove you're a hot shot. That's a tag. Oh, your name is Brandon Staley. Unleash some hell and go for gold. Yeah.
A few words a game. Does your QB have the guts? Will you just punt or throw it up to Cooper Cup?
Say it louder. From the back of every bar, or the subway, on the streets or in your car, wherever you have found yourself, scream out your battle cry. I'm all in.
Yeah! One play at a time, boys. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing.
Right before the microphones went on, Stugotz felt the need to inform Mike Ryan that Delaney Walker had hung them up, and Mike Ryan felt the need to call Delaney Walker, according to the statistics, one of the best tight ends to ever wear a uniform.
Mike Ryan felt it, like he feels it. This is a big day. Delaney Walker hanging it up. 14 seasons, Dan, a sixth-round pick, one of the great underrated tight ends of all time. I am telling you, 3 Pro Bowls, had 6,000, I think, career receiving yards, 37 touchdowns. It's a sad day. Delaney Walker has hung it up after 14 seasons.
If he were healthy, he would have surpassed names like Ditka and Todd Christensen.
I don't think 37 touchdowns puts you in the pantheon of great tight ends.
At that
Underrated.
Hall of Fame chances 0.
Okay, we don't need that today. We don't need that today to celebrate his retirement.
But if Delaney Walker played in the 70s, certifiable first ballot Hall of
He
Fame.
only had one 1,000-yard season.
You know how scared.
Six-round pick.
Look at Mike Ditka's records.
I mean, come on, different era, Mike. That was
I know.
this is
That's
now.
the point that I'm trying to make is if you look at all-time receiving yards at the position, he's on the first page. You don't have to go next 25 for him. If he played in a different era, he'd be talked about as one of the greats.
Yeah.
Can I
Thank
ask you guys
ridiculous argument.
Can I ask you guys questions about a different era? And this is like hyper local, so I don't know how many people will care about this. Was Mark Duper like?
When has that ever?
Was Mark Duper really fast?
Super duper.
Yes.
But
Yes.
like super fast? Because
Super duper.
I was listening to the local broadcast of the Dolphins games on the radio, and Jimmy Cephalo, who was calling the game, says that he hasn't seen anyone as fast as Tyreek Hill since Mark Duper. And I thought, that seems really impossible to me.
I just Googled 40 time for Mark Super Duper, 4.28.
Wow. Amazing.
Is Mark Super Duper? Is his name legally changed to Super? I believe he changed his name. His first name is Super.
That
He's
is
no
his middle
longer-
name.
But back then, they didn't have laser timing.
Exactly. That seems like they took it on a sundial or something.
I'm looking at Mike's page. Literally, the second link is, was Mark Duper really that fast?
He was Tyreek Hill he looked like Tyreek Hill on a field.
Yeah.
He seemed faster than everyone else he was playing
That's
against.
what he was known for. Speed.
And I'd just like to get ahead of this.
Super.
This is no disrespect to Mark Super Duper. This is just me kind of questioning Jimmy Cephalo's memory of things, you know?
I think it's fair to wonder whether or not somebody who ran and was fast in the 80s with all the developments in technology, science, weight room, nutrition, healing, everything else, I think it's fair to wonder whether an 80s or a 90s time in the 40 is the same as somebody running, looking faster to us in the modern age.
I would love to drop Tyreek Hill into the time of Red Grange.
Wait a minute. Never mind that. Go ahead and put Delaney Walker with a neck that comes complete with its own government because it's so
Exactly.
long. He's got city commission meetings on like his right shoulder pad because he would terrify everybody who
Go ahead and
played in
put
the
Jake
70s.
Scott. Go ahead and put Jake
The guy,
Scott on Delaney Walker.
Walker's made out of rock. If you were to take one of those Greek statues and make it run up and down the field, I wouldn't want to tackle that guy.
Now you're feeling it. You're feeling Delaney Walker.
Hall of
It's a
Famer.
big day.
Yeah.
37 touchdowns, not enough.
City commission meetings on his right shoulder.
Tyreek
That was
Hill.
actually said.
I read an article and it's legitimate. Tyreek Hill has Calvin Johnson's yardage record in sight. He's on pace to break it.
I mean, they lose and score 16 points on Sunday, and every time he's out there, it's 12 catches for a $170, and Waddle's eaten because when they're not double teaming Hill, they just throw to Waddle.
I think Greg told us before the season that they both were going to have 100 catch seasons.
Yeah, right.
And at the time, that seemed shocking. Doesn't so much anymore.
Right.
Greg was on the money, and they're going to put up big-time yardage together, too, because they both had, over 150 on Sunday?
Yeah.
They're absolutely eating.
Yeah, they're no Cortland Sutton, don't get me wrong, but yeah, they're both pretty good. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do a back in my day with Greg Cote.
Yeah.
I was stunned. We were all stunned to learn that he has one. This one's been baking, percolating for months in the oven.
I mean, it's a Tuesday.
Exactly.
And now,
The
it
guy-
is time to take a trip down memory lane. Here's your guide, Greg Cote, with Back in My Day.
Allergies. As someone who's been coughing nonstop for 5 years, I see so many doctors. I earned a medical degree by osmosis. I finally reached the low rung of desperation by agreeing to see an allergist. I never believed in allergies, but here I was experiencing what turned out to be medieval-level torture. 32 sharp plastic points pricking my forearms enough to draw blood, and 30 needles puncturing skin on my right shoulder. Allergies. Back in my day, we didn't have hypersensitive immune systems, and if we did, we didn't know it or care. Ignorance was bliss. You ate a bag of peanuts at a ball game, had no idea why it made you itch and sneeze, and didn't give a crap because it tasted good. Now, I once got one of those credit card-sized bag of peanuts on a plane and read the label because it's what I do. Label said, warning, may contain peanuts. We're afraid of everything, allergic to our own shadows. Now we're so worried we need organic food. Can't have gluten, please. Deli Doogie used to say you have to eat a peck of dirt before you die, forerunner to the 5-second rule. A peck is about 256 ounces or 2 gallons. Imagine eating the contents of 2 empty gallons of milk filled with various kinds of dirt. I once drank 2 gallons of gluten straight. I was fine.
That's not true.
We did everything devil may care back in the day. Everything. Gigantic cars barreled down the highway before the advance of seatbelts. You smoked in the car, in restaurants, on planes, in bathrooms. Doctors smoked. Babysitters smoked. Babies smoked. Wild Bill Cody started giving me sips of beer when I was 10. And look how I turned out. Back to allergies. So it turns out I'm allergic to 9 things. I looked at the list, started weeping with joy when it didn't contain Miller Lite or chicken wings. It did contain 2 kinds of dust mites, cockroaches, pigweed, another weed called marsh elder, melaleuca trees, and queen palms. Pigweed. If I'm allergic to bacon, big problem. Pigweed, I'll deal with the risk. All of my allergies, by the way, are moderate, not severe, so I'm going to start taking a medication called Do Nothing About It and go on with my life. Wait, I only named 7 of the 9 things I'm allergic to. The 2 other things happen to be dogs and cats. I have 1 of each. You know what? I am severely allergic to Jumpin' Charlie eating my couch and my eyeglasses, and the world's largest puppy's incessant jumping on people is why we sent him away to a 4-week boot camp. For the money it's costing us, Charlie better come home not only trained but playing the piano and speaking 3 languages. A little dog dander that might make me sneeze? Bring it on! I'm Greg Cote, and that's how it was back in my day.
After Charlie has eaten the couch, he is sent to boot camp because he ate your glasses.
Yes, right. That's why I have my emergency pair on.
Right.
Because I woke up, I saw my glasses on the ground. I'm thinking, oh, I dropped my glasses. And then I inspect them, and the part that goes over your ear is, what do you call that? The part of a glasses.
The part that goes over your ear.
Yeah, that, exactly.
Right.
Frame.
Mangled.
The leg.
Yeah.
Mangled. My dog is eating the tree stump in my backyard. He'll eat, seriously, he'll eat everything and anything, that dog.
I think your dog did you a favor. Those backup glasses are a real Bailey Zappi situation, I think, for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I've had
Hasn't
them.
everyone been complimenting you today, saying you look normal, you look
Right.
clean, you
Yeah.
look
Except
like
the
Joe
one
Madden?
person he wants a
You look
compliment
normal.
from, right?
What
I
a
mean,
high compliment. You look normal today.
I do. I look clean and normal. Normally, I don't shower, but now I have new glasses, so I showered. It's great.
What do you mean normally you don't shower?
I'm kidding. It's just a joke. People saying that I look clean. I mean, what does that have to do with new glasses?
Stugotz said you look like Joe Madden.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard Robert Scorsese. What's his the
Martin?
Martin Scorsese.
No,
No,
that's
you look like his brother.
That's his
Bob.
brother,
Bob
Bob
Scorsese.
Scorsese.
Bobby Scorsese.
That could
The
be.
failed Scorsese brother.
Harry Carey is another one I get.
Barry Carey.
That's right.
Someone say Barry.
We're good. It's all good.
Greg's black left great toenail, he informs us, has fallen off due to natural causes. We broke that story a couple of weeks ago, but the nail has been kept, he says, as a talisman and necessary artifact, and
Yeah.
he says he may put it on tour. The gagging of Amin El-Hassan is correct there. Where has the black toenail been placed?
It's encased in it's almost like a wedding ring. It's
You
encased-
have it?
Yeah.
He always has it.
I
What do you
smell
mean?
Amos, Miami.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
No, it's a talisman.
No.
I mean,
He has it with him right
Hold
now?
on,
Yes,
don't
I've seen
show
it.
anybody.
Yeah,
Hold
no,
on
I
a
do,
second.
yeah.
He
We
does
might-
not have it in his
He does
bag.
have it with
No
him.
way.
Yeah.
He's got it
Yep.
in an engagement ring.
Hey, you're sitting on
Protector.
something. You're sitting on something of value.
Well, hold
don't give
on
away
to
the.
it. Hold
Don't give
on
away
to
the
it.
Wait
goods.
a second. Wait. Hazmat suits, everyone in that room.
I want to take this occasion. I don't have a lot of other information to give you other than Greg Cote's black toenail will be there. We're doing another Moss. We got a date. A date has been set. These things always sell out. It is December 10th. We will have more information coming out in the coming weeks. Ticket prices, bands, everything else. Go to lebatard.com. And you could do that on Twitter, or you could just go to the website. But we don't have information yet. We're just giving you a date. Ron McGill will be there. He will do Sex and the Animals. Sex with the Animals is a totally different show.
Baby.
And Greg Cote will have the black toenail there that perhaps for a price you can inspect and be disgusted by and make gagging sounds.
2 questions. Question number 1, will it be held at an abandoned Kmart?
Not yet. I don't know what's happened there with Billy and K. Moss,
No one
but
respects me.
it's Wynwood Marketplace. He's been working for months on the abandoned Kmart. I haven't heard anything other than he's been working for months on the abandoned Kmart.
Question 2. Can we have Greg's toenail in a glass case like the museum style thing with a carpet and some velvet ropes
I
and
would
people
love that.
come up there
Proper
and
lighting.
take a picture?
Yeah.
And a
Yep.
spotlight.
Right.
Spotlight,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. Amin's got the right idea. That's the right idea. I want that.
But then people see it for free. Don't you want to charge them to see it? Like, $5
We'll
a head?
Put a tent. We'll put a tent, Stugotz, like at the county fair.
Okay.
You
All
gotta
right.
pay outside. You come in, you go up under the tent flap, and you walk in, and like the Queen's crown jewels in that glass case, it'll be opened up, and you'll
like it.
see it. And you
That's
can take
a
a
good
picture
idea, yeah.
for $5.
Yeah, or better, you buy a Greg Cote Show podcast T-shirt and you get to see it for free.
Wow.
How about that? What an idea that is. Let me write that down.
December 10th is the date. We will all be out there, and we will have all sorts of surprises and new details for you. MossLebatard.com is where you go if you want updates. I can't believe that it worked this quickly, that Robbie Anderson now gets to go play for the Arizona Cardinals. I think next Sunday, all the Panthers are going to be yelling at their coaches to see if they can get rewarded.
Kick me out of the game.
Please reward me
really.
by making me not have to play with the Panthers anymore, because it became an untenable situation because of the silliness of how we overreact to guy on sideline yells at coach. But this came complete with the interim coach just saying, get out of here.
Right.
Get off the field, and that's your last act as a Panther. You can get out of here. We're going to kick you off the field, and now you get to go play with Kyler Murray because Hollywood Brown is out. So he's the first one out the door. Well, the second one. Matt Rule was the first one. And he gets all his money. They are now just rewarding Carolina Panthers for their shame.
And now they want to trade McCaffrey. Their
Yes,
best
they
player.
do. They'll
Yeah.
trade anyone at this
Yeah,
point.
right.
Seriously.
That's the worst team in the NFL and the least interesting team in the NFL, correct?
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't have said that at the beginning of the season, but
Either
they're
them or the
worst team.
Texans, right? Either them or the Texans.
I think the Texans are the most uninteresting team, but Greg is right. Like coming into the season, you thought Baker Mayfield. There was some stuff that you were intrigued by with the Panthers that you no longer are at 1-5.
Right.
You know?
I think the Texans would be favored over Carolina on a neutral field. I have to think that.
How do you guys feel about the make a mess, get traded action? Because yesterday, Amin and I talked about this for probably 20 minutes too long. But the thing that I was trying to present in front of the audience is if you don't suspend this guy because you want to make sure that his feelings are protected as he heads into ring night and defending champion night and start of the season night, that is the most volatile, combustible source you can possibly have unhappy with your organization. And that's where I was trying to lead everybody. I was not making the arguments on behalf of Draymond Green is still a great player, or as if I didn't see him in the playoffs last year where he was an offensive liability. I was making Draymond Green arguments on behalf of how Draymond Green might look at things. And if he, as a volatile source, is disrespected and feeling like everyone else is getting his money, holy shit, is that going to produce some interesting content for us? Because he's not going to do that quietly.
But then my counter to you was that his money, his value is inextricably tied to team success. That's where he gets his money from. That's where he gets his reputation from, is that I'm a winner. So to mess it up in protest would, in essence, only mess up his own free agency kind of prospects.
But he's
in the
already
future.
done that. I mean, we
How?
started the bidding by punching Jordan Poole in the face.
Sure, but that's not because he's trying to do it on purpose.
I don't think there is an on purpose with him. That's not how rage works. Rage ain't on purpose.
But you're talking about a year-long kind of sabotage of the season
I'm
due
just
to your
talking
rage?
about an unhappy, disrespected Draymond Green wandering around with a platform where he's perfectly comfortable making messes.
Let me tell you something. The one thing we know about him is, for however hot-headed he is and rage-filled, as you want to call it, he always plays smart. Like, he always...
Not always. He got kicked out of the finals for not playing smart.
But that was one game.
But it cost him a championship.
Look, what are you going to do about it, right? Like, they lost 3 games after that. They lost 3 games after that, Dan. Okay, he got kicked out in game 4. They lost 5, they lost 6, and they lost 7. So we can't say, oh, that's why they lost. Like, they lost because they blew a 3-1 lead. Was him getting kicked out and suspended for Game 5 part of that? Absolutely. But you still had Game 6 and 7, and he played great in Game 7. They still lost. You can't point to that and say that's why they lost. The reality,
you can't point to Draymond Green and say he's never cost them anything with his range.
I didn't say that. I said he's a guy who remarkably is able to play really well despite being on edge.
20 minutes too long yesterday, so we spend another 5 minutes today. I mean,
what would you like to talk about?
I mean, it's Draymond Green. I'd like to talk about college football and the regular season and the fact that an expanded playoff is going to ruin perhaps the greatest regular season that we have in sports.
Mike, you just said that take during the break, and Mike told you that it's not right, and you went to the microphone with it again.
Well,
he
it doesn't
just
mean
told you that it's inaccurate.
It doesn't mean I agree with Mike, and it doesn't mean that Mike is right.
But you agreed with him during the break.
I did not agree with him during the break. I said he made some fair points, but I still feel like the college football expanded playoff is going to ruin the best regular season in sports.
Well, I disagree strongly that it's going to ruin. I think it's going to supplement because right now you have the same teams collectively. Interchange a couple of them, going for 4 spots. And Sports Illustrated actually changed my opinion on this with some data that they pulled. I think the sample window started at 1998 to present day, and approximately in the neighborhood of 75 different programs, college football programs, would have made the expanded college football field. Think about what a college football playoff appearance would have meant for Kansas back in 2005. I mean, you're talking about things that changed the trajectory and fan bases and funding and resources for college football programs. Coastal Carolinas of the world, UCF would have been even more dynastic, like an actual dynasty potentially. Programs that have been accused of being irrelevant for 20 years would have found that Miami would have found their way in an expanded playoff field in 2017. I'm saying it actually is pretty exciting. We got a college game day to Lawrence, Kansas because, oh man, a new shiny thing happened in the middle of America. Can you imagine if that shiny thing gets to actually go to Tuscaloosa to play a college football playoff game? I actually think that there's a lot of good to be done with an expanded field.
What I like about the regular season with college football is you have these de facto playoff games essentially leading up to the college football playoff. So if I'm watching Alabama-Tennessee with a 12-team playoff in place, it takes some of the juice out of the game, knowing that win or lose, both those teams are likely going to make the playoffs. Like it does. It takes away from the game a little bit.
You're using Alabama as an example,
Well, Mike,
and they've lost a lot of these playoff games and still find themselves in the playoffs.
Right. But you have like 4 games this weekend, like UCLA and Oregon. You have Syracuse and Clemson. Those feel like playoff games.
Yeah, but that's not going to go away. It's still just as important. There's in terms of conference allotment, there's still only one that goes to the champion. Yeah, they're at-large bids, but you're going to have maybe 4 teams fighting for these at-large bids. There's still monster games.
And the other part about this, Stugotz, is that for a lot of teams, the not Alabama division of teams, right? You lose an early game, like a September game, and that's it. You're out. Like, oh, well, that was my one chance. Like for UCF, for example, if they're not undefeated, that's it. Your season's over. So if you lose that game up front, then guess what? The rest of the season isn't as important because, well, they're off the board. This at least keeps people engaged. Like, look, I might have stumbled a little bit earlier here, but I still have a chance to fix this thing and salvage it and have a chance later.
Okay, that's a fair point, but Tennessee goes to Georgia in a couple of weeks. And what fun is watching that game when you know, win or lose, both teams are going to make it to the playoffs?
Well,
I mean,
the fun
honestly,
is it's 2 great teams.
It's 2 great teams, but there's no stakes attached to it.
But now there's even more stakes attached to every other Alabama game because you know their season is over. Look, I can understand. If you look at the college football playoff, the games have not been compelling. They've been blowouts, largely. We have very few memorable games when we look at the college football playoff in its totality. However, I actually think more games might be a good thing because I'm getting blowouts and I'm getting the same teams anyways. So let's introduce some new teams to the party. Let's have seasons be more interesting deeper into November. I don't think it's a bad thing, and I don't think there's going to be a shortage of big games that feel like Tennessee and Alabama. I think they're going to be games that feel monstrous.
I like a 12-team playoff because it brings Cinderella back into the mix. You have maybe a Kansas, a Cincinnati, a UCF. If 4 beats 1, if Clemson beats Georgia, it's not an upset. You have 4 powerhouse teams. If you have a 12-team playoff, You have the interloper. You have the team that nobody thinks has a chance, and that adds drama to the whole thing.
We're having a reasonable debate, and I understand where Stugotz is coming from, and I don't have the results in hand to show you that this way is going to be better. But this weekend, Syracuse I think this is the first time this deep into a season an undefeated team is going to Death Valley. It's a noon game at ABC. Syracuse and Clemson. That's going to be an elimination game for Syracuse, you might think.
Yes.
Right? If they lose that game in an expanded field, you're a Syracuse Orange fan. All right, we gave it our best shot. We have the rest of our conference slate to get into this expanded field, and we're going to be rewarded. There are programs like Syracuse, like even Kansas. TCU would have made the college football. They would have been a fixture in the college football playoff if it were expanded. I think this is good.
But what I love is I know Syracuse has to win this game to keep their hopes alive. And if you expand it out to 12 teams, they don't really have to win the game. They can lose this game, have a little hiccup, and then that takes a little juice away from that game.
But Syracuse loses this game, and then all of a sudden, I don't know who's next in their conference. Let's just say it's Wake Forest. That game all of a sudden becomes a playoff game, and you get extra added juice.
You guys had me at game day was at Kansas. That the portal has made Kansas a team. I was watching their game on Saturday. I was watching their game against Oklahoma. I was made uncomfortable by them having a player named Kobe Bryant who was bent over and badly injured at the goal line, and all the announcers were doing in a 35-21 game is talking again and again about whether the ball was let go of before the pylon and ignoring that a human being was sliced in half and had to be taken off the field named Kobe Bryant. Like it was happening again and again on the screen, and they were ignoring it, just watching the ball and trying to decide whether the ball was in or not. And football has become such a monster, Stugotz, that I thought that the removal of the veil of amateurism, I thought naively, dumbly, would do something to slow down the popularity of rah-rah amateurism.
Right.
And good God, when I saw Tennessee, I just was like, oh my God, I'm wrong. I'm so very wrong. None of these people care that it's not about collegiate pride anymore or even regional identity. It's just, can we spend more, get in this game and play these games and matter in college football? Whoever's got the biggest and best bank account is going to get in the game.
It's the most I've ever seen a fan base care about anything. I mean, honestly.
It was 102,000 people coming in from all over the place so that they could play a giant game against Alabama, and nobody seems to care that the myths and the illusions have been removed. I don't know that college football is actually losing fans because it's like, hey, never mind about student athlete, never mind about books, never mind about any of that stuff. It's not that. It's, can we get this guy in the portal because we've got $1 million, because we've lured him with $1 million that someone else doesn't have.
Shocker that, these people didn't just care about, they're getting an education. Like, we knew all this all along. We knew because a lot of those guys at the high end were getting paid under the table. So all we did was just put it out in the open. But the reality is everyone who said, well, if that ever happens, I'm never watching. You don't care like that. You care about seeing human beings crashing each other every Saturday.
A Tennessee fan is thinking, we haven't beaten Alabama in 15 games in a row. Do anything to beat Alabama. Will anything. Cheat, pay, do this, portal, transfer, whatever you need to do.
Kill people, have people hidden in the trunk of your car.
Just beat Alabama.
Yes.
Give babies cigarettes.
Exactly. Thank you.
If you look at the AP top 25 right now and you extrapolate it out to what an expanded playoff field would look like, you'd have schools like Tulane, James Madison, South Alabama, Kansas, Illinois, Syracuse, and Wake having legitimate playoff conversations right now. And it doesn't seem impossible like it does right now with only 4 teams in there. You have a legitimate shot, and I think that's exciting for the sport.
Stugotz, you don't want to see the Dukes in the playoff? Come on, man.
No, I like big brands in the Final Four. I've always said that, and I'll always stick by that, and that's what you have now with college football. You get straight to it. You have a great regular season, and then you have 4 great teams, big brands, usually playing in the Final Four.
Here's what you're going to do.
I don't need Tulane in my college football Final Four.
I understand what you say, why you're saying that, and you've always maintained that in college basketball. But what I'm telling you is your eyes are lying to you, because the second Tulane gets into the college football playoff and they get absolutely smashed by one of these Georgias of the world, you're going to say, see, blowouts, bad games. That's what you have when it's Alabama versus Notre Dame. You're getting blowouts in all of these college football playoff games. They've all been dreadful in the semifinals. They've been bad. There isn't a single memorable one really that's coming to the top of my head.
But Mike, you're clamoring for more blowouts because that's what you're going to have.
I'm getting blowouts either way, so I'm clamoring for a more interesting, more of them.
Yeah, but I don't need to see Tulane get blown out. I don't mind seeing Notre Dame get blown out.
Yeah, but also you're going to see a game that has juice, a playoff game on campus between, say, TCU and Ole Miss, and that's not a bad game. That's a game with stakes, and you have a team that has another win with momentum going into a place that has a bye, say like a Georgia or Alabama. You can talk yourself into it. I think it makes for better games in the college football playoff.
And if Tulane makes the playoff as a 12th seed and loses in the first round by 30 points, that still lifts that whole school, that whole franchise by making the playoffs. It increases recruiting. It just does worlds for them.
I like the idea of Mike saying that Stugotz, his eyes are lying to him. And I just thought about what other body parts of Stugotz
all of them.
Double down on the lying so that Stugotz himself, within himself, we talked about all the little Stugotzes inside his brain, are all lying to him at once.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. What lies more, Stugotz's mouth or Stugotz's eyes? Greg Cote is here with a counter opinion, though, on baseball. You guys were all saying that the fix was going to be in. There was going to be a rain postponement of some sort that benefited the Yankees, or tonight the umpires will benefit the Yankees so that it's not the Guardians advancing. Greg Cote wants randomness with baseball. Greg Cote is rooting for all Cinderellas, no major brands. He is rooting tonight for the Guardians.
I like a mix. I believe in the Cinderella magic of sports. I do. I love that the Guardians might be in the AL Championship Series. I love that the Phillies beat Atlanta, the World Series champion. I love that the Dodgers lost. You know, I don't like predictability. That's the thing I don't like about the college football playoff. Clemson, Georgia, Alabama. At the beginning of the season, you could name 3 teams that are going to make the Final Four in college football, and you'd probably be right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah,
boring.
but you put 12 teams in, it's going to be the same 4 teams anyway. No one's beating those 4 teams. Tulane's certainly not beating those 4 teams.
Okay.
You get the randomness in baseball, though. That's what baseball is. You get it every year.
You're still going to have the good games. If the one that did come to the top of my head in college football playoff that was a good game was a Baker Mayfield Rose Bowl shootout against Georgia, where both teams were really good.
Right.
But for the most part, you're getting the Peach Bowl between Washington and Alabama, which is 24-7. I am not taking the Rose Bowl of Baker Mayfield versus Georgia away from you. That's still going to be there in an additional round. I'm giving you some other options here that might prove to be good games.
Greg, you can't have all Cinderellas, though. In order for Cinderella to work, there has to be Goliath.
I agree with that.
There has to be Goliath.
I agree.
So you say, I'd love the Guardians to win. Well, then you should have been rooting for the Dodgers to win over there. Because you need something. You need an evil empire to root against.
Right.
If it's all Cinderellas, then you've scared away the casual fans.
Yeah, the Astros. I mean, they're evil. They're not an empire.
But they're not an empire.
Right.
Billy, what are you rooting for? Are you rooting for the Yankees to get eliminated right now, or do you want their pain to be maximum pain later on?
Oh, no, I want them to go. They can go. They can go right now. I don't care. But the fix is in, so they won't go. We've gone over this. They'll
we
be
have
around.
gone over this.
Yeah.
Cortez is starting today, by the way.
Of course he
An
is.
extra day of rest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nasty Nestor.
Why is it that the other day they waited out Phillies and Braves rain delay for as long as they could wait and then ended up playing it? But in this instance, they gave everyone the day off so that they can have the Hialeah kid go out there with the proper rest.
Well, you just said it, so that they got him the ability to go out with the proper day's rest, and then if things don't go well, Garrett Cole can come in relief, and it'll be fine.
Billy's got a theory. I mean, I'm curious if you're buying on this. Billy does have a theory that we didn't explore earlier on Big Suey enough, that Charles Barkley's new contract, 10 years, however many millions, whether it's 100 million or 200 million,
millions?
I imagine that matters to him. Billy thinks Shaq is now going to be disgruntled in their TNT locker room.
I don't believe so.
Really?
I would.
You would be disgruntled, or you would believe that
I would believe
disgruntled?
Shaq would be. I mean, Shaq thinks I'm a champion. I was a better player than him. I'm just as good on the air. Why is he getting his money?
Yeah, but they created that show.
But he's saying this from Shaq's perspective.
But the building blocks of that show, and I think Shaq knows this, they're Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson. Shaq joined a team that was already great without him.
Right. True.
Like, he has to understand that Barkley's the reason people are tuning into that
Right.
thing.
Maybe I'm misreading Shaq's ego, but
I mean, Shaq's talked about it before, about how coming on the show, he realized, look, they've got a great thing. I can't disrupt it. I got to figure out how to bring me to this thing. He talked about not working hard enough and having they told him, you got to get up to speed on this, that, and the other. So I think he's a lot more understanding than you guys are giving him credit for. But the other thing is that it's what Dan said earlier. All this means is that when Shaq's deal is up, he's going to ask for more money. They're all going to get more money.
That's what you say, though. Like, you have to, yeah, no, I'm going to fit in. Yeah, like, no, this is perfect. I have to step up my game. I'm not at their level. And then negotiations come, and we'll see what happens.
Dwayne Wade,
hold on, real quick. Let's just what's the worst that's going to happen, Billy?
Oh, I think there's going to be a schism, and the show's going to end.
Wait, so you think if Shaq is
the show is ended?
This is where he checkmates you.
I'm telling
ask
you,
him
keep
for
an
what
eye
he
on it.
thinks,
Can't
and he
take it
gives
any
you a
further.
ridiculous thing,
No,
and then you
Billy
can't
has,
do anything.
Billy has you right where he wants you.
Yeah.
Congratulations falling in the trap.
But I just like I kind of feel like if Shaq leaves, they're like, okay, like Shaq is not essential to that show
That's
in
not
the way
what
that
happened
Charles
with the
is.
Lakers, though.
Right.
What's that?
That's not what happened when Shaq left the Lakers. It got really messy there. We started airing out dirty laundry. Like, never forget.
Kobe still won
Kobe
two
won two,
titles.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
just keep an eye on Shaq. I'm just telling you. It's not going to go quietly into the night.
That's a good point by Billy. Shaq can make a
Thank
mess
you.
if he wants to.
Let
It
us address for a moment what has been the standard throughout sports for fun coverage, award-winning coverage. It starts with Barkley. I think all of us would agree it can't and wouldn't be the same show if he left. I don't know if we'd make that argument on behalf of anyone else, although
Ernie.
I don't think most people would make that argument on behalf of Ernie. Maybe professional broadcasters would. Maybe the guys on that set would. But I don't know that a lot of people would make that argument on behalf of Ernie without knowing how difficult that job is.
You're probably right, but it's very difficult to sit in the middle of all of that and be as poised and as great as Ernie Johnson is.
And to have the respect of all of those people so that
right.
when he tries to get the show back on the rails, I don't have that respect here.
Matt Weiner would like a word.
But as they try to expand the evolution of that show, that's the standard. And they're clearly building the same attitude with what is their grooming project, the Lefko-led vehicle that had Dwayne Wade on it, but evidently, and Wade cared about being great at that and was doing the work to be great at that, but now ownership calls him, and I imagine he has decided this is too much different stuff. He's got a star power that is higher than Jamal Crawford's. We talked to Jamal Crawford, enjoyed talking to Jamal Crawford. Super, super polished.
Jay Crossover.
Fun. And if he had played now instead of when he played, he'd be a Hall of Famer because he'd be shooting 33s a game.
Oh, he was already shooting 33s a game.
They wouldn't let him. He thinks he would have been a Hall of Famer, but they've lost some pedigree now on what they're trying to develop. Those guys, I don't know if it matters to anyone in the audience because it's a fun show. But like I said, the analysis has been bad. Like they have swung and missed on everything that's changed in basketball when they're talking about it. It happened on their watch. They're watching the game, and it's being played differently than the way Charles and Shaq would play it.
Dan, this is the part that really fascinates me, where people are like, "Oh, I can't stand inside the NBA. They don't even watch games." Like, you understand what they're making here. They're not making a basketball analysis factory. They're making a TV show. And the TV show is funny and entertaining and engaging the way it is. I don't need Charles to be dropping quantified shot quotient for me in his analysis. I need him to be mispronouncing Giannis Antetokounmpo's name. It's like people tuning into this show and saying, "Oh, Stugotz just keeps coming with tropes. Does he even watch the games?" Nobody wants Stugotz to watch these games. Nobody who watches this show wants Stugotz to be great at his analysis.
I prefer
They
the
want
effort.
him to be.
I like an effort. I mean,
You don't want the effort. You think you want the effort, but you don't want the
Exactly.
effort. Yes.
Perhaps. I mean, I do think that the bad analysis thing is overblown too, because I do think Kenny, who has used that vehicle to elevate his name and campaign for jobs, I do think I enjoy Kenny's analysis, and I do like what Charles and Shaq, you understand their agendas and their biases, what they lop on top of it is not as bad as it was when the revolution of the game started.
And if somebody on the air is advocating that basketball is not as good as it was because of the evolution to 3 points, They're speaking for a number of fans.
Oh, but they thought it couldn't win. And they watched Golden State dominate
Right.
while they questioned Golden State. Regardless, he's right. Amin is right when he says this.
Right. The one thing when you say they, I want to point out something. I know I've told this story before on the show, but I'm going to tell it one more time. 2015, like January of 2015, before the Warriors have won anything, I run into Shaq in Scottsdale. And we get to talking, and he says, who do you think is going to win it all? And I said, I don't know, big fella. Who do you think is going to win it all? I want to see what he says. And he says, those two light-skinned kids in Golden State, no one's stopping them. No one's stopping. And then he pulls out a video on his phone of his own son, Sharif, who at the time was in the 9th grade or whatever, and he's already like 6'9". He's like, the whole video is his kid shooting jump shots, all perimeter stuff. And he says, I'm teaching my son to play that way because that's the future. He said this before they won a single title. And then he goes on TV and says, you got to pound into the big man. You know why? Because he's doing TV. He's not doing analysis. He's literally doing what he thinks people want to hear from him because he's Shaq and he played this way.
Well, let me ask you guys in the audience this. As Colin Cowherd says, there's money in wrong. And Stephen A. Smith proves there's money in doing performance art as television. And Skip Bayless proves that there's doing performance art, professional wrestler as television. It's not what I want from my television, but I'm also doing a show on Tuesdays with two guys who actively have been against learning for the last 10 years. Like
Thank you.
Publicly
Yes, indeed.
against the idea of learning anything about what you're watching.
That's right.
And no, I know you guys have been doing this. And is it that's what you want from Shaquille O'Neal, for him to actively lie to you about what he believes to bring you television that isn't actually that good when Shaq is making it? I don't think Shaq is great at television. I think he's okay at television. I thought he'd be better at television. So now the move is just be a professional troll? Like, don't tell me what you actually think. Give me fake analysis that isn't what you think, so Amin can tell me 7 years later that you knew what was going to happen, but you were lying to me on television for several years.
I don't think he's trolling, Dan, but I think Shaq feels a responsibility as the guy who played this way, who won this way, to not tarnish his own legacy by saying, "Oh yeah, that stuff is all in the past."
But you're saying that Shaq's out here. What you just
Shaq
said without
apologist to me.
saying it is that he's out here being dishonest in the name of making television.
I mean, come on. I mean, listen to this show. I mean, anytime like Billy has a take about a schism and the show ending on Inside the NBA, there are characters being played.
Yep.
People,
Wait,
how
what?
many people walk up to Stugotz on the street and take something that he said on the air seriously? There's a dash of that, but it's performative. He's playing a character on this show. It's a character-driven show that the fans have grown to love, and I think Inside the NBA is the same way.
Yeah, and I don't want all four guys nodding their heads and agreeing. I like the idea that somebody is going, no, you gotta feed it to the low post, bring back the center, bring back the field goal.
He's representing
shot.
you, yes.
Our show
Bring back the
literally
layup.
does that. Our show literally does that.
We love layups.
Did you
Somebody's
really
gotta
call
say
him
it.
big fella? I mean,
That is what he refers to him as. He does. He does. You do refer to him the
I
same way.
don't know, big fella. Who do you
Amin
think's gonna win?
Amin, the only place I have seen that Amin is actually respectful of anyone's constructs is calling Stan Van Gundy coach and referring to Shaq as big fella like you would as a lieutenant in an army who was meeting his general and had to refer to him as a way, you're bigger than I am. I need to, when I address you, I have to point out, I know I'm smaller than you. I know you're big.
We also call him Diesel.
Really? Wow.
Does anyone call him the big Aristotle the way that he wishes to be called the big Aristotle?
No.
He's got 1,000 nicknames.
He's also a really good nickname giver, by the way. He's amazing at it. So, like our training staff, because he went from people saying you're going to retire to winning All-Star MVP in about 18 months later. And so he called them the training staff mafia. And that stuck. We call them the mafia. That's to this day.
Classic big fella. I mean,
He loves the Phoenix training staff. They healed him up. Do you realize that when you're in his presence calling him big fella, geographically, you're in a position to physically kiss his ass, to actually kiss his ass?
match at the Roxy.
Come on now. One shot at whiskey, a go-go. There we go.
Now we're drinking to avoid temptations, but a job to do. Professionals with a drink or two. Just a thimble of gin, and then I'll be locked in. After gin, then we're gonna go to the Super Bowl. To the Super Bowl. Super Bowl. I mean, we have been locked up for a while.
Yeah, there's no rule against covering the big game and enjoying La La Land.
Wait a minute, it's the Walk of Fame. So much to see instead of the big game. And the traffic is bad on La Brea. So come on, join me in popping tequila.
Get it.
I'm just here to drink and find Lewis Hamilton.
Hey guys, Tom Brady. You gonna shotgun a beer or what?
I don't feel so good.
I am genuinely fucked up right now.
To the Super Bowl. To the Super Bowl. Super Bowl.
Let's do another round of shots. One more round.
It's showtime, buddy.
Racism, greed, trauma to brain and spine. And yet, I cannot look away. Heroes are dead. Science has their heads. Oh, is there no escape from here? I need to know. It eats my soul. Nothing stops me at Is this heaven or hell? I can't tell. It's human cockfighting. CTE prayer circles. They blackballed the black baller. They tried to end racism by stenciling it in the end zone. Billionaire boys using millionaires as toys. It's all immoral, all unethical. Ooh, the witching hour. Nothing stops the NFL. Is this heaven or hell? I can't tell. It's Urban and Snyder and Flores and Gruden, but Kyler, but Kelsey, but Cooper, but Canton. It's cheating and tanking and bounties and banking, but parlays, but face paint, but promo, but innings.
That is why, with every fiber of our being, we love the playoffs.
When the best play, trenches face to face, sacrifice life and live for the Lombardi. If there's a way, Stafford turns it all around. It would have to be LA, it would have to be McVay. tournament. Here, let me show you. Big Ben's last game. Kyler's feeling shame. Upsets in Green Bay and in Tennessee. There's just no way Prescott's going to the ground. He slid 1 second too late, and they don't have a timeout. Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Arrowhead, become personal playgrounds. Too much time, 13 ticks. Holy shit, he's gonna do it all again. Do it all again. It's time for the playoffs. So grab a beer. I hope it's Miller Lite. It's time for the playoffs. The playoffs. It's time for the good stuff. Where every game comes down to guys who kick. It's time for the playoffs. The playoffs. The The playoffs sometimes mean having to say goodbye. Even if you're not ready. Careers wind to an end. Mantles taken. Last chapter's written. But stars emerge to write new, exciting stories. For every door that closes, a new one opens. For every immunized quarterback that falls short, there's a young hotshot ready to take his place. There's nothing quite like playoffs. The playoffs. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I'm talking about the greatest of all time. He can turn it around in just one play. You can watch it all happen in the playoffs. The playoffs. It's the playoffs. Never is afraid. Eyes in his face. The chosen. I'm talking about Allen McPherson. It's time for the playoffs. It's the playoffs. The playoffs. It's the playoffs.
Evan McPherson? The GOAT? He's a kicker. I mean, Tom Brady's bed's still warm. Tom Brady just left.
You're the greatest of all time. You're the greatest of all time.
He's beautiful in every way. It's out of control.
He throws the ball most accurately and won 7 rings.
So good at quarterbacking. He's meant to outdecade teams.
A 6th-round draft pick with a chip on his shoulder and a dimple on his chin.
You're the greatest of all time. You're the greatest of all time.
He broke so many records and reached unattainable goals.
I said he was done 10 years ago when he shoved it down my throat.
He played the Jets twice a year and always ripped out their souls.
And just like that, he left us all wanting more. He's a certified GOAT.
You're the greatest of all time. You're the greatest of all.
Useless Sound Montage coming in minutes. Billy has emerged on his hands and knees from the weekend dungeon of cooking. It's part meth lab, part insane asylum. He is made totally crazy. I believe it's affecting the health and sanity of the people who live with him. It's an unpleasant experience to visit post-game football commentary where people say useless things. Billy, why are you frustrated with Tony now? What's happening?
No, Dan, you're saying the health and well-being of people that live with him. I don't think they care. His wife, his daughter doesn't care. The dogs don't care. They just leave him to cook in the dungeon by himself, and then he emerges as a hater.
But sad, angry, and as a hater, yes. Sending,
What
launching.
is this hater business you guys keep throwing at me? I feel like I bring a certain ray of sunshine
No,
to the
you do,
proceedings.
but also hate.
What?
Good hate, though, not bad hate. We don't like
Good
bad hate.
hate?
Yeah, we don't like bad hate. We like good hate.
Hateful
Positive
sunshine.
hate.
Yeah, positive hate.
Huh.
You got it right, Dan.
What are you talking about, Tony?
There's
Like,
hate. There's hate that's ugly hate that we don't like.
Negative
sports
And then-
hate.
Negative
right.
hate.
And then there's like good hate that we like Billy being a hater about the Yankees and about the Dodgers and all these things. We like that hater.
Positive
We don't
hate.
like.
He hates the right teams. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Good hate is called passion.
Yeah, like you hate racism. Would you
Exactly.
say that's a bad thing, Dan, to hate racism?
That is a good hate or a bad hate?
No, well, I'm
That's a
asking
good-
you.
Oh,
That's
then you
for
gotta
you to
ask, Dan.
answer.
I'm asking this
So-
question because I thought all
Oh,
hate was
boy.
bad. I thought
Well,
all hate was bad.
No.
Oh,
And-
hating racism is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But like racism is hate, bad.
Bad hate.
Yeah.
Yeah. The actual act of racism.
Okay, but racism is also hate. That's
Right.
bad hate.
Yeah, no, that's
Right,
what
we
we're
hate
saying.
that.
Yeah,
Now you got
But combating hate with hate, you are saying is then
It's love. It's like a double
it's-
negative.
Exactly.
It's love.
It's
Is
the
that
best
right?
thing
Dan,
possible.
Yeah.
Dan, you know how they have end racism in the end zone? They should have hate racism.
How are we doing with
people
that,
really
by the
know.
way? Like, we haven't gotten an update from the NFL.
Oh, I got
That's
an
good.
update for you.
Uh-oh.
It still hasn't ended.
Thank you.
Working
They
on
send
it.
out a
We're
press
working on
release.
it.
Are they any closer though?
Yeah.
They-
Do you think there's like an annual check-in?
I wish
like,
they
where
had
it's like, where do we
weekly quotes
stand
from
on this?
Goodell. I feel like we're closer. Kanye set us back with the George Floyd comments. I think that we should have weekly updates.
Anti-Semitism, bad hate.
Yes, yes.
That's a good example.
I understand better now. Thank you guys for explaining it to
You're
me.
welcome.
I've got a couple of stats here for you before we get to the useless sound of the day, but they're not worthy of stat of the day. But this will allow you to make fun of the Carolina Panthers. The Cardinals are paying Robbie Anderson his salary this year, which is $575,000. But because the Panthers restructured his contract in March, he will cost them $20 million on the cap for the next couple of seasons. That hurts. And then this from Jameson Hensley. Ravens are the 39th team in NFL history to hold a double-digit lead in each of their first 6 games.
It's crazy.
They're the only team not to have a winning record. The only one. They could easily be 6-0. They have played well enough to be 6-0. If they could hold on to their double digits leads, they would be 6-0.
Dan, can you spell the name of the person who gave you that, who wrote that report? Because we're having a debate back here about what that first name is.
Is it Jamison Hensley? It's Jamison Hensley.
Sounds like Jameson.
Jameson. I think he said James on. Or something.
Yeah. He
Okay,
said
so Jamison Hensley.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's fine.
Is it a fine?
Wow, Roy, finding you.
I don't feel like. Is that a fine?
Yeah, of course. Who
mean-
mispronounces Jameson? Come
All
on.
right. I mean,
Ridiculous.
Are you guys ready for the useless sound of the day?
really taking it on the chin for mispronouncing Jameson.
Right.
I mean, it seemed like a good place to stop everything. It's good to just shut everything down, shit on my face, and then keep going.
We're appreciative of the day, but we still understand exactly where we are.
It was a long week.
It felt like one of those heavyweight fights, man. Division opponent. They know us, we know them.
Keep on getting back up, keep on swinging, keep on competing.
A lot of great memories. It was from one game, but a lot of great memories of this stadium.
Like, that's love, right? That's just the love that you have for your teammates. And, like, there's no greater motivation.
Until I see us breaking ranks, I'm not going to say there's any wobbliness going on.
Teams are either coming together or they're not. I mean, that's really the way it is. And this team's coming together.
Wobbly only if people are breaking rank.
Ben lulled him to sleep.
I think that's the main thing. Yeah, we're being ourselves. Self-inflicted wounds was that was the story of the day.
You throw it outside, you throw it inside, you run it inside, you run it outside.
Coach to player, player to coach, player to player, coach to coach.
You know, that's what we talk about, complimentary football.
We didn't take them lightly, number one. Number two, I think guys that's living off the Super Bowl are living in a fantasy land.
Losing comes down to obviously scoring less points than the other team.
Yeah.
It's good to win. Yeah, it's good to win every week, Tony.
I always expect to win until there's literally no time. So anytime you lose, it definitely hurts.
It feels good to win no matter what, honestly. It's a great team win today.
When you lose a game, especially at home, it's never a good feeling.
It's great to win every week.
You're not going to luck into any wins in the NFL.
When you make mistakes against another great football team, you lose football games.
It's a challenge when you play Tom Brady.
Got beat. It's frustrating, disappointing, all those things.
Today is a win, so happy.
There's something wired in his DNA that's just different in that way.
We didn't have a big menu because we can't have a big menu.
Why didn't we score more points? Well, we didn't do well in the red area, first of all.
League is hard. Not always going to be perfect.
It's an execution game. You either make the play or you don't.
We ain't running away from it. We're going to continue to run to it.
The time for talking is over. You either got to put up or shut up.
A couple of things from there I want to address. Aaron Rodgers denying wobbliness. Should he be denying wobbliness? Because I believe we are all in agreement. I believe everyone listening to this would agree the Packers seem wobbly.
Well, no, now you have to deny wobbliness or you're out for a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about Tom Brady, Stugotz? He was starring, rare loss for Tom Brady as a 9.5-point favorite. And the thing that I wanted to ask you, because we are looking at a player who legitimately has no precedent. You cannot find anyone in the history of that sport who has aged this way. And what I want to ask you philosophically, are you just simply going to go to the very end, never doubting him anymore, never seeing that passes are being thrown short or anything else? If he plays into his 50s and keeps playing forever, is there any point that you're going to see aging, or you just think he's going to be undefeated against Father Time and you will never say another word that wonders whether he's the same player or not, and even though at some point it would stand to reason that he would be a lesser player? At some point, their aging has to catch up to all human beings, or are you here to say not him?
Not him. As long as he plays, I'm going to think that Tom Brady is going to figure it out. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be playing. Like, I think Tom Brady is going to know when it's time to walk away from the game, and when that time comes, he'll walk away from the game. Dan, they're 3-3. Brady hasn't played that poorly. They are 3-3 in a lousy division. He's getting his receivers healthy. They were out for a couple of weeks. And so to answer your question, as long as Tom Brady's playing football, I will feel like whatever team he's playing for will have a good chance of making it to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl.
There's legitimately no age.
He's earned that. Yeah, he's earned it. I mean, Dan, people wrote him off 10 years ago.
You are assigning a self-awareness to him that I do not associate with athletes. That they all know when is the time, that they look in a mirror and they know.
Oh, George Blanda played until he was 48 years old.
Not this way.
Right.
Not this well.
He was mostly a kicker at that age,
mm-hmm.
less a quarterback. But I remember Willie Mays in a Mets uniform at age 40 looking awful.
Right.
Looking awful. Peyton Manning, his last season, looked pretty awful. I assign mortality to Tom Brady, even though I've been expecting it for 5 years and not getting it. Sooner or later, he's going to go over a cliff, and he's not going to be anything that we're used to seeing.
But people have been saying that for 6 or 7 years.
Yep.
I keep seeing, he is throwing. No,
He's not alone. I mean, Dan said it about 12 years ago, and he's put together another Hall of Fame career since, too, actually.
I said 7 years ago that his deep ball numbers were down, and that's the way you measure decline for a 37-year-old quarterback. And then he defied not only all of science and all of aging, he is now in a position where you realize I've now set Stugotz up. There is the very real chance that Tom Brady is playing in his 80s, and Stugotz would still be out here saying hasn't lost any arm strength, still think he's going to win the Super Bowl, weak division. I'm not noticing any of the short-armed passes. He's still throwing into absurd windows. The number of times I'm watching a Tampa Bay receiver have to grab the ball off the bottom of the ground because he's throwing it in a place where only that receiver can get to, and it'll be either an incompletion or the receiver has to make a tough catch. Godwin must be so tired of picking things off of the turf because he's throwing it there accurately on purpose. But at some point, Stugotz, at some point in every human aging process, there has to be a decline there. But the safer route is just do what Stugotz is. Don't say anything
It
bad.
served me well so far, Dan.
Don't say
Yeah.
anything bad ever. Don't see anything. Don't notice any aging.
Was Godwin tired of the losing before Brady got there? Because Godwin's done a lot of winning since Brady has gotten there. They won a Super Bowl. He got a new contract. He's doing just fine. Bend a little and pick up the ball. I mean, give me
Godwin
a
was
break.
doing a lot of tackles when James was throwing 30 picks and he had to go find
Exactly.
the DB and try and
Right.
tackle him. But to that point,
Hear
Dan,
from
like
Godwin.
you
He
talked
hasn't
about
said anything. I was speaking for him.
Gee, you shouldn't do that.
Godwin has not
making him look bad.
He has not said anything about Tom Brady.
the fact that
Needs to zip it
quarterbacks
up, that guy.
There we go. The fact that quarterback's arm strength is the thing that you see in decline of age, right? He still has a lot of juice on his passes. So if he's not taking hits, if his arm is still strong, if his mental is still there, his offensive line, even though it's not that great right now, if that's good, like why wouldn't
It's
he be
a
able to
pretty
play
great
at 55?
offensive line. Don't say it's not that
But they're
good
injured,
just because
though.
he's yelling at them. But
They're
that
injured,
offensive line, he gets pressured less. It's a statistical fact. 17% of his dropbacks, he gets pressure. That's lowest in the league.
He's still on pace for 5,000 yards passing this year.
Stugotz, I'm not questioning it. I'm just asking you, when a guy continues to age, he's 45.
Right.
Like, I'm not questioning it.
It
I'm
seems
not.
like you are,
I'm
and I
not.
wouldn't do that. I care about you. Dan.
Sounds like it.
I mean, do you have any experience with athletes knowing it's time to be done? The self-awareness of athletes is not something, because they overcome so much, because they are people who like to defy odds, like to be challenged, and like to disprove, because they're competitionaholics and meticulous very often about their craft. I've often said that with an athlete that their confidence is the last thing to go and that the mirror is the last thing to know. And I don't believe that Tom Brady or anyone else would look in a mirror and say, you know what? I can't physically play anymore. Maybe I don't want to. I'm not good enough. I can't do this.
So most of the time it manifests itself, I've found, where they say, I can play. It's just the getting ready to play and the coming down off of playing and the maintenance and all the
Hurts
work.
too much.
I have to. It's just too much. I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of being in pain. In the case of some guys, they're thinking about their lives with their kids. I want to spend time with my kids. I don't want to be a broken man like who can barely walk afterwards. So it's usually stuff like that. But typically, the finding out I'm not good enough part that's the hardest one, because it takes kind of a level of self-awareness of saying, well, it's not because of my teammates and it's not because the coach is using me wrong or whatever. It's just like I can't do the things I'm accustomed to doing.
Well, Dwayne Wade came off the bench at the end, and I never thought I'd see that. I thought he would go out a starter.
He had to leave in order for that to happen.
Right.
Like, if he had stayed, do you think he would have come off the bench?
Well, you've seen that Carmelo's been reluctant and Russell Westbrook is reluctant. It's because of what I'm saying. I don't think that self-awareness is a tool that serves athletes. I don't think it's useful. What's the point of knowing that you're weakened? Better for the delusion of, no, I can always do this until they drag me off the field by my neck, because younger people want this too, and it's a younger people's game.
That's how miracles happen, man. Like, you want to know how Tom Brady is hitting those windows, throwing the ball, either it's a completion or an incompletion, it's not going to be picked off, whatever. It's exactly that. It's having the balls to say, yeah, that little tiny window that I have to throw? Yeah, I could do that. Do that in my sleep. And if he had self-awareness, he'd be like, man, that's a risky play. Man, maybe I shouldn't throw it that way or whatever. Like, that's how we get great play, is by these guys having zero self-awareness.
I think an interesting thing, part two, is the fact that some quarterbacks get bored, right? We talk about Patrick Mahomes always trying to make the big play, Josh Allen the same way. I think in the broadcast, they were talking about Marcus Mariota, and the way that he's tried to redevelop his game is watching Tom Brady not be bored with nickel and diming down the field.
So a great example of this, in the 2007 playoffs, Steve Nash threw 2 behind-the-back passes in the fourth quarter. One was between someone's legs, and the other one was with his left hand. And I remember saying, why would he do that? And someone said, just to see if he can. Like, there is a level of the genius wants to know what the outer limits of the genius is. When Andrew Bynum was getting better as a player, there was a game where he shot a three-pointer And like Coach Brown pulled him and yelled at him, whatever. And so after the game, all the guys went over to look Kobe's locker. Like, oh, Kobe's probably gonna tear the kid a new one. How dare he take a 3? And Kobe it was the opposite. He was like, sometimes you need to know how great you are when you are great. And he totally understood why Andrew Bynum would do that. And so what you're saying then is absolutely correct. The thing that makes it impossible for them to know, yo, you're done, you're washed, this thing has passed you by, is the thing that made them great in the first place.
It's not just this that makes it difficult, though, because the reason that Shaq dubbed himself the big Aristotle is because he says you are what you consistently do. And the thing that makes it a mind bleep for someone like Brady or anyone who's aging at the end is they can be great once. They could be great 7 times a game still. It's the ability to go out there and consistently do it when your family stuff is making an appearance and you've got to stay at the facility 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night because you got to know more about what they're doing so that you don't get hit in a way that hurts because he's getting the perfection in Tom Brady at this point isn't even the accuracy of throwing a ball 1,000,000 times a week. It's that he has a sophisticated mastery over what it is he's looking at and getting rid of the ball still faster than anybody. His protection stats are some offensive line and some that he knows exactly when to get rid of it for 2 seconds and he can feel, oh, wait, I've got 6 seconds here. I've got time. I could just feel it because I've done this so many times.
Dan, is there any part, you just mentioned something that I completely forgot about. Is there any part of whatever slippage we're watching is because of turmoil in the home, turmoil in his personal life? And not because he's falling off, but because now what was once an undivided attention now is being divided by all this other stuff that's happening in his life.
Bob Kraft's wedding.
Yeah, I totally believe that. How can he not be? It's the most public divorce, and it's going to get really, really ugly. And how can that not enter the workplace?
Well, but he's playing fine. I just can't believe that we're still having a conversation where we're talking about what the home life is as opposed to, 45. It's George Blanda's age.
George Blanda started in the 40s and ended in the 70s. I mean, holy bleep. The 40s.
I just don't think that I've said this before. Go ahead right now, wherever you are, just run and fall down and see if you think that feels good at 45. just is it. Not tackle, not someone's landing
Nobody
on you
hits you
350 pounds.
by yourself.
Just run and fall down and just see how that feels the next day. As you tell me, well, Tom Brady's not getting hit, as if you're making him somebody who's wandering through the chips aisle at Whole Foods.
He's been sacked 9 times so far this year, which is a lot for Tom Brady. He's also only thrown 1 interception. Like, he's going to have 5,000 yards. They're going to win that division. He'll have 30 touchdowns and like 4 interceptions. At the age of 45, with all of this stuff going on in his life right now, he's still going to do that. And I don't care what you tell me about the Eagles or some of these other teams. Tom Brady and the Bucs come strolling into your stadium, and you're Jalen Hurts, you are terrified. Still, today, you are terrified that he is going to take your dreams away from you. You are.
The Eagles secondary is really, really good.
I know they are. So is Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I know.
Big play slay.
Yeah. I know they're good. But, Tony, you have to bet an amount of money, okay, that means a lot to you.
Okay.
Brady is strolling in to Philadelphia Stadium to play Jalen Hurts.
Strolling and not just
he
walking.
has to stroll.
He's not walking. He's strolling.
Yeah.
Totally relaxed, not sweating at all.
Whistling.
Been here 1,000 times. He'll be here 1,000 more times.
Omar
okay?
from The Wire, dragging a shotgun.
Strolls with a swagger.
And you have to bet an amount of money that means something to you. You put it on Brady or Jalen Hurts or the secondary or Darius Slay. Brady, come on.
I mean, the one kryptonite that Brady's had has been the Eagles, right? In the last 5 or 6 years, that defensive line is still good. Their secondary's good. Like, I think I'd put money on the Eagles.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
I understand why it is, Tony, that you would say that, but everyone
you kind of had to.
Everyone listening right now is saying to themselves, Tony is lying.
I'm also biased, though, Dan. I have Jalen Hurts MVP everywhere.
We've got quarterback bias, though. Wait, this is how we analyze these games. And if Tom Brady does stroll into your stadium, no matter who it is you are, I'm still expecting him to come back in that Rams game against Stafford. Like I'm still thinking like they're going to break into programming one day and Stafford's going to lose a game at the end because Tom Brady has figured out a way to do that. That is one of the amazing things that he's done, that you're not even allowed at 45. There's no one. It's been beaten out of all of us. There will be no one on television questioning whether or not Tom Brady is aging.
Right. Nobody.
Hey, the rest of us are all aging, but he's the only one who's not aging.
I saw him coming back in the marriage.
Wow.
What a comeback.
Wow.
Take.
How about that?
Is that right?
Reconciliation.
Wow. That is a strong take. You have that. A big upset. He's down 28-3 right now.
It's not looking good right now. We would all agree on that.
But there's a chance.
Final whistle hasn't blown.
Right.
Amin, as the basketball season begins here in earnest, and as Ronnie 2K says that players have tried to bribe him with sneakers.
Man, Clay,
Guy's a hack, Ronnie 2K. Get out of here.
What do you mean he's a hack?
He's a hack, Dan. He thinks he's all high and mighty doing 2K ratings. There's nerds in some sort of cubicle putting that together. Not him. He's just a face of it.
Nerds.
Nerds.
Clay Thompson, I don't know if you saw this, Dan. He was pretty upset. He said, quote, "Y'all really interviewed this clown? I thought NBA on ESPN meant coverage of some of the best athletes in the world. Not interviewing a promoter. Do better, ESPN."
He's mad because he got an 88 on shooting, and he should be.
Yeah, he should.
He should be. I mean, it's disrespectful.
He deserves better. You're right.
He should be furious. He should be chasing down Ronnie 2K wherever he is and trying to bring embarrassment. It's wrong.
What a ridiculous world.
It is factually incorrect. And I know that this is supposed to be something that is subjective. It is factually incorrect to give him the same rating as Markkanen. And it's just because of
that is disrespectful.
What are the storylines that you're excited about this year? Do you not do that stuff? You have a good way of cutting through the noise. You don't have much use for the soap opera stuff. You were very good yesterday with the very clinical explanation of this is not the emotion business when it comes to paying people. Draymond Green is not worth the amount of money that he will be commanding, and therefore you make a business decision there, and you don't factor in past performance, loyalty, feel good. You pay somebody what they're worth.
Do you factor in how much he means personally and on the court to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson?
No.
Do you factor that in at all?
No.
You know, if Steph wants him to stay, you don't do that for
You've got
Steph?
them locked up, and you're making business decisions now on your future, and that's bad money. It's to spend a lot of money. To overpay on Draymond Green is spending money poorly for them.
What players want is they want to make sure that you're putting all the resources you can for us to be as great as possible right now. That's what they care about. Because Draymond is under contract for this season, that isn't a concern for the Warriors and for the players, for Steph Curry. Now, 2 years from now, is he going to be upset? Like, what, we let Draymond Green walk for nothing, and now I have to deal with teaching these young guys to play that role? That's a different story. But right now, yeah, no one's clamoring for Draymond to get his money because, quite frankly, it doesn't change anything in the right now for them.
What are the storylines that you're looking forward to, though, this season? As because you don't do soap opera stuff.
I mean, I do. Like, I am very interested to see like how that particular situation, Draymond and Jordan Poole, they both said the right things, but like we know human beings, man. Like, can you really go on and just go back to business as usual? Maybe they can. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep an eye on that. As I said yesterday, I'm very interested in the Thanos snap, the portal, where all these people that we forgot about have walked out there. Kawhi Leonard, Ben Simmons, Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, like all of these guys that we, for whatever reason, we forgot they existed, and we just thought, well, the Denver Nuggets are an okay team. Well, yeah, they were an okay team without two of their three best players. Now, give them those guys. Now we got a different story. The Clippers, they were a competitive team. Okay, but now give them their best player back. And by the way, John Wall's another guy who's walking through that portal where we were like, oh yeah, remember him? He used
I don't
to be
think
good.
anybody's expecting anything from him.
No,
are they?
see, Dan, that's the pitfall that you guys are falling for, which is John Wall at $44 million? There's no way he can ever live up to that. John Wall at $6 million? Oh, he's one of the best value deals.
Yeah.
At $6 million, that dude who hasn't played basketball in 2.5 years, last year, not because of injury, but because they made a mutual decision in Houston that he wouldn't play. So this is a guy who's fresh. This is a guy who's recovered. And again, not having to live up to the expectations of being a franchise player and making that kind of money.
Can you tell me what's real from a player evaluation standpoint as somebody who's worked in a front office? I have no idea. None. Zero. How to assess what John Wall and Ben Simmons are going to be, because I do not know. You mentioned freshness. I don't know what the damage of not playing for multiple years in that sport, what it is.
I mean, it's rust for one.
Oh, damn. Steven's A-list, top 5 NFL teams, and this one is a doozy.
I hate it, Bill.
You hate it?
Mad Dog is there. Mad Dog is on set on a Tuesday. What do you hate? What's happening right here?
People are starting to take my team seriously.
Yeah.
Billy will tell them more, but I don't like this thing.
Stephen A's top 5 NFL teams, Dan, at number 5. The Jets.
That's what I don't like.
Something was brewing.
Kiss of death.
Number 4, the Cowboys.
We've never been in the top 5. We've never in anything.
Number 3, the Chiefs. Number 2, the Bills.
Yeah.
Number 1, the Eagles.
Unless Tom Brady is strolling into that stadium. Yeah.
I kind of feel like Billy messed up the read. You should have started with number 1.
Yeah.
The Jets were the big surprise being the top 5 team.
Well, the news here is the Jets at number 5 and number 4, the Cowboys, because he hates the Cowboys. But the Jets at number 5, I mean, Dan.
How do you guys?
Top 25 is more like it.
How do you guys feel
We're the Giants.
About the sports media's infatuation with a Dallas Cowboys team that hasn't done shit for 30 years?
America's team, Dan.
But how long do they get to be that when they haven't
Forever.
done shit for 30 years?
Yeah, forever.
For as long as Jerry Jones is inviting Jerry Lee Lewis to play at his birthday party?
Ew.
A couple of Jerry's cutting it up.
Jerry Jones has told us since the beginning does not care about whether or not people object to the circus. He knows very much that it's entertainment, and it hasn't mattered that the Dallas Cowboys haven't been any good for 30 years. It is still a source of ratings magic somehow, everyone over-covering the Dallas Cowboys, who just got done having the perfect backup experience to end your quarterback controversies, win the first 4 games, then throw a bunch of interceptions right before the starter gets healthy. It's Cooper, if Cooper Rush can do that, he can make Chase Daniels money for the rest of his life. Just win 4 games and weighs 16 points, 19 points, and then right before Dak is healthy, just throw a bunch of picks.
Did you notice how quickly they announced that Dak will be back this week and against the Lions too? Like, what a soft landing spot for Dak Prescott.
Worst defense in the league by far.
But you guys are never going to get tired of the over coverage of a team that's pretty mediocre, that the star on the helmet is going to be redundant to you, even though they don't have actually that many stars anymore.
They have the veneer of competitiveness, right? I mean, when's the last time Jimmy Johnson was like 1-15, right? Way back when. When is the last time the Cowboys were really, really bad? I can't remember. When's the last time they had?
When was the last time they were
4-12?
really, really good? Can you remember that?
Des Bryant, that one year with Des where they lost to the Packers, controversial call, I guess. Maybe that was the last time they were really good.
I kind of prefer the coverage to see them fail, right? Like, it's kind of funny to see them see the Cowboys get hyped up, and then everyone starts buying in on the Cowboys, and then when they lose, like, it's kind of hilarious.
I got an answer for you, Greg. 2015, they were 4-12.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Romo
but
got
that's
hurt that year, I
certainly
think.
not the norm, though, with them.
But how
They
much,
haven't had a lot of dips.
But how much currency do you buy yourself with championships 30 years ago? Are we extending that to the Steelers right now? Like, we certainly don't cover the Raiders and the Steelers the way that we did the other teams of this time that were making, becoming a popular team in America because television and the NFL were exploding.
But the Steelers have won 2 since. So, listen, you're asking a fair question about the Cowboys. Like, the coverage is not proportional to the amount of winning they've done.
My point is the Steelers don't get the coverage the Cowboys do, and Tomlin's never had a losing season, and Tomlin's won Super Bowls.
Right.
And we still obsessed with this team over here that's won. I'm going to guess 2, 3 playoff games in the last 25 years?
Maybe. I mean, we do the same thing with Notre Dame at college, don't we? I mean, they haven't been relevant or great.
But at least they've got their own marketing arm. They've got their own network. They're an independent. They're a power that lives outside of the sphere of everything. This team exists with everyone else and isn't as good as a great many of the teams in the league and hasn't been. I mean, you're not going to find a lot of teams, Stugotz, that have done less playoff winning than the Cowboys have over 25 years.
No, you're right.
The Knicks.
I'm saying football teams.
Okay.
The Lions.
But it's no the Cowboys. Whatever reason that branding existed. And by the way, they were America's team before the advent of what's Troy Aikman and those guys. But Ethan Strauss has a
going
weird,
back to Staubach, they were America's team.
Yeah, they were America's team
Yes.
going back then.
Right.
Ethan Strauss has this weird theory that like if you are a great team during a time of economic growth in this country, people remember you a lot more fondly, like because people remember everything was better, and that's why. And so being great in the 90s, like in 95, winning a Super Bowl, has more currency than winning a Super Bowl like during a recession.
Cowboys have 4 wins in the playoffs since 1996.
4 playoff victories, more than I thought they had.
A lot of that's recent because they went a long
Yeah.
time when it was like they hadn't won a playoff game.
From 96 to 2009 was their stint between playoff wins.
There are certain teams we like to talk about for whatever reason. The brand has been built up. Notre Dame's one of them. The Cowboys, another. The Yankees.
Lakers.
Lakers.
You're right. All the national teams, we expect them to be good just because they're national teams. Of
course.
Been good
You
forever.
guys do realize, though, that the other thing about this, because Jerry Jones is an owner who doesn't mind the circus, does his own press conferences somehow every week, even though the owners usually don't do that. You realize the Cowboys, on top of everything else, not terribly interesting. Like, they were interesting in the 90s. It's not just winning championships, but holy shit, they were getting in a ton of trouble.
Yeah.
They had personalities who were stars. Go ahead.
Ezekiel Elliott had some problems, right? Like I don't know what we're doing here. How much shit are you getting into? You guys aren't even getting into shit.
They're not interesting. The Cowboys.
I disagree.
I've been fascinated by our over coverage of a team that I don't think is either that good or that interesting.
But it's working for them because we're still covering them.
I mean,
they haven't been to Jerry Jones's credit, which is a weird thing. Like he's somehow made this a brand that everybody's talking about, whether they're good, whether they're not, whether they're interesting, whether they're not. They're still on the list of everybody's top teams. They're still in prime time, like every other week. Everyone's still talking about the Cowboys. It doesn't seem to matter.
It's like they're almost good enough just to be relevant right on the surface.
And not only that, but also, I mean, they have a massive national fan base, right?
Yes.
I flew to Los Angeles a week
So
ago.
do the Steelers, though.
No, not like this.
Not like this,
Let
though.
me put it to you like this, Dan. First of all, they were the first pro sports team to have content behind a paywall on Cowboys.com. You want the inside stuff? Pay, and they got crazy money off of it because all of these people all across the country were willing to pay money to get like some glorified PR puff pieces from behind the paywall about the team. The other thing is I flew to LA last week, and when I landed, I was like, what's going on? And I realized it's because the Cowboys were playing the Rams. All the hotels in LA were booked. It was crazy, and there was traffic everywhere. And everywhere I looked, there was people with Cowboys jerseys on. And this is in the town that won the Super Bowl last year, a major metropolis. But like,
But that's unfair to call LA a football town compared to Dallas.
But his point is, those fans travel. They're everywhere.
I mean,
everywhere. More than any other
travel
football
as
team.
well. Is that right?
More than any
Is that a
football
true thing? You might be right about that. Is that true? What he's saying, that if the Dallas Cowboys are playing in your town, they are more of a national team than all the other teams.
If they're good,
I think so.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
And also, Micah Parsons is going to win NFL Defensive Player of the Year. They had a cornerback who just led the league in interceptions. Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback. I mean, they have stars. They have an interest level, I think, beyond the fact that they're America's team on fumes.
I mean, Greg, look, I am not gonna argue with you that Micah Parsons is a great football player.
Right.
But when you're coming at me with Diggs and Parsons as stars, get out of here. Like, they're football players who are very good, but Dak Prescott is only a star because he plays for that team. Like, that team does not have stars anywhere but on its helmet.
Okay, if you get past Aaron Donald, everybody's greatest defensive player, the Cowboys have a couple of the ones who are right up there.
Micah Parsons he's a star, Dan.
I'm not. Look, man, you think he walks into most rooms, people know what Micah Parsons looks like?
He's young. He's in like his second year.
Well, he doesn't get to be a star then. Like, that's not how stars are made. He's great at football. That does not make you a star.
You don't think Micah Parsons is a star in the NFL?
I think he's excellent at football.
Okay.
Greg, what he's saying is if Micah Parsons walks down the block
You
here,
wouldn't recognize him. If he walked in here right now, you would not know who that is.
That's not true. I happen to know what he looks like. To your point, he's a baby in the league still. That's part of what makes him great is that he's this good at age 22.
That's his point. He's like, he's great. He's not a star. To be a star, people have to know who you are. That's Dan's point. He's not talking about he's not a star caliber player. Right. He is a star caliber player, but stardom brings with it like a commercial, baby. How about that?
This is sports radio, man. Would you know Micah Parsons if he sat in this room?
This is the power of the Cowboys and Stephen A, where we were going over Stephen A's list to talk about the Jets, and immediately now we're 20 minutes in and we're arguing whether or not Micah Parsons is a star.
Yeah,
that's right.
Let me read you a quote here from Jeff Van Gundy in a profile by Kevin O'Connor on Daryl Morey in The Ringer. And Morey's first official selection when he drafted somebody was Steve Novak. You remember him, Stugotz.
Of course I do. Yeah, great shooter.
Yes. Played a decade in the league as just a shooter, but was really,
not a star, by the way.
Thank you. Was really a horrible, horrible defender. And here is the Jeff Van Gundy quote on this when Daryl Morey drafted Steve Novak. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, I've lost the page.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So this is the quote from Morey. I was like, yeah, I know, Coach. Obviously, his physical tools aren't great on defense, but it's surprising that he's often in the wrong spots because his father's a head coach. Morey's recalling this. Jeff's eating food, and he drops his fork. He says, what? Say that again. I was like, yeah, his father's a head coach at the high school level in the Milwaukee area. Jeff goes, if he were my son, I would have no choice but in the middle of the night to smother him to death with a pillow. To save the family honor. The Van Gundy name would not survive if Steve's defense was on our resume.
That is fantastic.
What a great
I love Jeff.
A bit excessive, but I understand.
Who's that bad defensively in the league now? I mean, who's that kind of bad that you would smother them to death with a pillow if you were a high school
if they were your
coach?
son?
Michael Porter Jr.
Really?
Wow.
I like his game.
He's a great player. He's horrible defensively.
Does he even try?
No, I mean.
I've heard people
Bucket getter.
argue that Denver's got the most talented roster in the league.
I think there's a team in the 718 area code that probably would say a little bit more talent over here.
Denver's hugely talented, though. There's no disputing this.
They are. I don't.
Is Murray healthy?
No, 718 is Brooklyn. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I always didn't know
I went
that
a
one,
little
yeah.
too.
That's the other area
Too
code in New
local.
York.
Too local.
I'm a
with
2-1-2
that
guy.
I mean, that was a hell of a high note you just hit there. I don't know if anybody else noticed it. That was impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow.
So is Murray healthy?
Did you hear that? I want to replay that. I think that was just epic. The glass on my iPhone broke when he made that note. Seriously.
Shattered?
Do it again. You can't do that again. All right, it was a little higher the first time, but that's a good effort.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to hit that note in 10 years.
How high can you go?
And that's not a clean note.
There's a lot of Miller Lite behind that sound.
Well, a lot of things.
Chunkular!
Thank you. I did derail that a little bit. I was the only one
Oh, you
fascinated.
noticed.
I was the only one fascinated by the high note he hit. I was impressed.
No, we all were.
Okay, all right, well, it's worth noting.
You have musicians that can't hit those notes.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Chunkular!
Truth, Dan.
Showkiller!
You don't have the nerve to replay his original sound because the whole country is going to hear that and go, wow, I can't believe Greg was the only one to notice that.
Showkiller!
All the iPhones would break.
Yeah,
in the
that's
world.
true.
Yeah.
Mine was perfect before that. Now look at it.
Look at mine, too. Same
Yeah,
thing.
right?
Yeah, shadow.
Showkiller!
That's crazy.
Big day for Apple Care.
Okay. I'm done.
Evan McPherson? The GOAT? He's a kicker! I mean, Tom Brady's bed's still warm. Tom Brady just left. You're the greatest of all time. You're the greatest of all time. He's beautiful in every way. It's out of control.
He throws the ball most accurately and won 7 rings.
So good at backing. He's meant to our decade teams. A 6th-round draft pick with a chip on his shoulder and a dimple on his chin.
You're the greatest of all time. You're the greatest of all time. He broke so many records and reached unattainable goals.
I said he was done 10 years ago when he shoved it down my throat.